A good thing about what's happening in this 13th Parliament is we have some members who are coming in after serving for very many years. For example, the longest serving member of Parliament in the 13th Parliament is the one, Aidan Keynan. 25 years in Parliament. Since 97.
I thought you were about to say since independence.
Wow.
Since 997, Aidan Keynan has been elected to Parliament. Let's now look at the others who have served long enough. Samuel Moroto, 21 years. Aidan Duale, 15 years. Jane Kehara, 15 years. Shakil Shabir, 15 years. John Badi, 15 years. Then others are in 10-year category. Naisula Lesuda, 10 years. Yep. She first served as a nominated senator, then as an elected MP. We have Oscar Sudi, 10 years, Stuart Madzayo, Fatima Dulo, Kipchumba Murkomen, Samson Cherargei, Aaron Cheruyot, Moses Kajwang, who have been re-elected. Then some people who were there many years ago, they've come back. Musa Sirma, Julius Sunkuli, Gonzi Rai.
Those are names I can resonate
You
with.
can resonate with?
Easily.
Yeah? Hey. Those ones.
Some of them we can even compare the dates of birth.
Yes. Hey. In the last 30 years, Gonzi Rai, a member of parliament for Kinango, has lost twice in the Kinango parliamentary race. He first got to parliament in 1992 on a Kanu ticket.
He did. There was no other ticket then, just so that you understand. Okay?
In 92, there were other tickets.
Actually, no. I'm going to explain to you why I'm saying there were no other tickets.
Tell me.
We had ushered in multipartism,
Yes.
but the ghost of Kanu was alive. So, yes, people were getting around to figuring out this thing about multipartism and Ford and what have you. But Kanu held sway. Yes, that's what I mean.
He's stuck in Kanu, got re-elected.
Yes.
Now we are seeing people who are also joining parliament for the first time this year. And some have been elected directly, others have been nominated. Our guest this hour is somebody who has been nominated to Senate by the UDA party. Her name is Gloria Magoma Orwoba. Mheshimiwa.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Thank you for having me.
Karibu sana Mheshimiwa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante. This is my first time actually, on this show.
Yes.
Yeah.
We know.
So today it's a first time on everything.
Yes.
And we welcome you.
Asante. Thank
It's
you.
a hot seat. This is where accountability happens. We represent the people. We create laws in here. And we also oversight those that have been elected.
You legislate, oversight, and you represent.
Everything.
So this is Bunge.
This is it. This is it. Welcome.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your nomination to the
Asante
Senate.
sana. Asante sana.
You are a member of UDA. Is this your first foray into politics?
Yes, actually. I came back to the country in 2019 to join politics. So this is my
You
first...
came back to join politics?
Yes.
Okay, explain.
My mission was actually to come back to Kenya to join politics so that I felt like that is the space that where I can be a change maker.
Where did you come back from and how long were you there?
So I lived in Europe for a while and I had a really good job actually.
What is a while?
I was 3 years in Sweden, about 2 years in Denmark. So yeah.
So you'd been away.
Yeah.
So what made you feel that the thing that you'd like to do next is join Kenyan politics?
So prior to that, I worked in Kenya and I happened to have a couple of projects in Kenya. One that actually made me have interaction with government. And I felt that at that time, the impact that I created with that project and having like a PPP with government, it's something that I put in my head and I was like, I want to do more of that. I want to have more impact in government. So I shelved it and pursued other interests, family and otherwise. And then in 2019, I just felt I need to go back. I need to go back. So I resigned from a job. I had a really nice job. I was managing the Facebook data center in Denmark. So, and I told my family I need to go back and get into politics. And I had tried in 2017, but I came too late. So I learned the lesson that in order for you to get into elective or an appointive seat in government, you have to at least participate in that election like 3 years before the actual election. So I did my calculation. So I was like, I need to go back home 2019. So I came back. Yeah.
And what did you do after coming back? So you've landed at JKIA. Okay, guys, Gloria is back. 1, 2, 3 things. Let's meet for lunch. Then
Gloria's come back with an idea.
Yes. She has this
mission.
She's on a mission.
She's on a mission. Now, this mission.
The mission was to vie in Kisii County as a member of parliament. So I came back. And I knew I had to get into the spaces. I didn't know which political party I was going to join, which affiliation. I just first wanted to be in the spaces of politics, like interact with those people. So I came back, and the first thing was find somebody who's in politics, talk to them, try and have them, welcome you into their space. Yeah. So actually, my first meeting was with a friend of my sister, who was the youth secretary for the office of the deputy president. So I went to see him, and I was like, I can volunteer. Just, I have skills. Use me.
Yeah.
That meeting didn't go too well because I technically had no CV. So he was like, you have no CV in politics. You haven't done much. So you go do something, then you come back. Actually, the one thing they said is you're not even on TV. If I Google you, nothing comes up.
Right.
So then the first assignment, I said, so people need to be on TV. Yeah, so I
need to be a public figure.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, let me try and get on TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
Essentially, people needed to know you.
Yeah.
People needed to have seen you.
Absolutely.
They didn't ask you to build a school, build a hospital?
Well, when I started the campaigns, it was like, so what have you done for the people of Bobasi constituency? Ndio tukupatie kura. So luckily, my background also, I've been in the community CBO space, the NGO space. So it's natural. I was like, actually, this makes sense. So I looked and I saw that we still have a big problem in Bobasi constituency. School is free. Infrastructure is there. CDF has changed mabatis and built schools. But now the communities, the children are hungry. So I had previously participated in a nutrition program in the past. So I thought, let me start a nutrition program. So that was my way of entering now, of showing the community that, if given the chance to manage CDF, I can do something with it.
Okay.
So I had a nutrition program. That was a sort of like, actually, you need to show people what you can do with CDF. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you knew? I mean, I'm just going back to even before you came back to Kenya. What are some of the things that you wanted to see having been done that would then fuel, the action for you? What are some of the things you said, okay, whether it is in my county where I'm from or looking at the nation at large, what are some of those things?
You see, one of the things that inspired me to actually be in government somehow was that I used to produce musical theater shows back in 2010. And I was in that space. And I used to work with an international organization from the Netherlands. So I convinced them to come back to Kenya and produce a Kenyan. They were just focusing on South African shows and stuff like that. So I convinced them to come back to Kenya and produce a Kenyan musical theater show. And when I had that project, I thought, we have musical theater, but what can we do with it? Yeah. We can market destination Kenya. So I remember going to Najib Balala's office and telling him the idea that we don't always need to just put ads on CNN, with our flag and some Maasai guy jumping.
And a lion yawning.
Yeah, so I when you did the math, these theater shows, we would take them during the winter to Europe. And the guys who actually go to watch theater shows in Europe are rich, because one ticket is like between 15 euros to 75 euros, depending on the seat. So these are guys who could easily, if they walk out of the theater or even in the break in between, because it's a 90-minute show, they could easily purchase a safari just at the entrance. Like, oh, this is nice, 3,000, watch it nilipe, then I'll come in December. So I convinced him that, you know, the audience that we're reaching out is huge because it's a 3-month activity with a show every day except Monday. So about 200 shows. And I was like, you can reach these guys directly. And if we actually partner it with a couple of tours and travel agents, we could, you know, increase the traffic. And my thing was when we did it, because we ended up partnering, and the Ministry of Tourism through Kenya Tourism Board sponsored the musical theatre show. It was called Out of Africa, The Magic of Kenya.
Right.
And when I saw that impact, I was like, I need to bring more of these ideas to government. So when I came back and I knew that I wanted to go vie for this seat, one of the things that I wanted to showcase, and I was so clear in my mind, is that CDF just doesn't need to be brick and mortar. So I wanted to show the electorate that funds are available. The issue is that we have leaders who don't want to think outside the box. They don't want to work. Because, you know, when you create a project, then you have to make sure you see it to fruition. And some of the projects require a lot of logistics. And people just want to buy mabatis and change, you know. And they just want to paint schools and then go open with a ribbon. So one of the things that I wanted to see is that from the moment you enter that space, there's an immediate impact to the electorate. Like, mtu atasema, at least leo sijalala njaa.
Yes.
You know, just think outside the box. So it was more of the kids. For me, it was because those are the change makers. You know, it's the younger generation that's actually going to pick up something and turn this thing around. So I wanted to see more of impactful ideas, you know, and a direct impact, not huge investments, and the return on investment is like your grandchild is probably the one who's going to feel it. So it was more those projects that are low hanging fruits that you can just go in and, you know, the kids are now having porridge in school. Right. Why can't that be financed under CDF so that we can ensure that kids are actually going to school? Because we have the infrastructure there already. But no one is asking themselves why school is free technically. But the schools in Bobasi constituency, they are empty. Yeah.
Kids are not going to school.
Kids are not going to school.
They have to go and eke out a living so they can have a meal.
Let me ask you this question. You worked in Denmark. You worked in Sweden as well?
No, I worked in Denmark. In Sweden, I was running my own organization.
Good.
Yeah.
But you live there.
Yes.
Now, when you live in Europe and you look at the way they organize and run their education system, these feeding programs that somebody has to figure out, okay? For it to be sustainable, in the event that you, who was pioneering this, was not there, what did you do so that the community understands the need for them to actually get involved in this process? Because I am certain the area you come from, people farm. I am certain that there are things that you can find locally. And these very same things can be used to actually feed these school children.
So first it was difficult because, you know, when you've been in a state of, let me say, a bad relationship, when someone does something normal,
it looks abnormal.
It looks abnormal. Even to convince my own team, guys, this is what I want to do. I want to like take porridge and bread to school. They were like, aye, this is a lot of work. So even my team, I had to convince them, no, we are going to do it. And I can tell you, like, the first 2 weeks was so hard because no one understood. They were like, okay, so what do you need? I said, I need, 2 workers in the school, because one will be in the kitchen ensuring that happens. The other one will be for accountability, so photos and videos. And then, even just structuring it. And then I said, we must buy the flour from the local market. So I need that to be organized. Either let's put it with the headmaster or we put it with like a teacher who's interested in that. And then, so what about bread? That was the biggest challenge because there are only 2 operators in Kwanza. Yes. So I was like, we need bread. Bread is the incentive because, porridge is a thing, but we need to get them excited about the thing.
Some kate is the thing that
kate was
the kids.
It was the currency. So getting now the supplier was like, oh yeah, of course we can supply, I don't know how many thousands of packets per day. but hatuwezi kufikisha kwa shule. So now I had to now engage boda guys. So, you know, the logistics behind it, it forced me to engage a whole community because it's like end to end. And, but, you know, I think you have to really have the vision and execute it for the electorate to, because after now, the first term, the trade-in was that they had to have my sign.
Right.
So I built a sign and I put it at the entrance, and it was nutrition program sponsored by GLORIA ORWOBA, and that was the only trade-in that they had to do, just protect the sign.
Okay.
And you know,
How about their
then
participation, like City is asking, in
their
terms of all this contribution?
their participation was actually the program could not work without the school administration, without the chief, without the board of
The Board of Management.
the board of management, because you had to get all those approvals, and then the community, because there are two communities that actually refused, because there was a rumor that was introduced that it's like Illuminati porridge and what. So you also had to go and talk to the community and explain to them, I'm bringing this nutrition program because I am trying to make sure that kids go to school and stay in school. And because I know most of the kids only have one meal and they have to walk back home to have that one meal. So I actually had to talk to the parents as well. So, and eventually after the first term, people sort of started getting the hang of what it was. And now my message from there was, CDF doesn't only have to build roads and put mabatis. CDF can also do this. And you know, the electorate could not believe it. They were like, tunaweza kuuliza MP wetu alete uji shule. I'm like, yeah, because it's under education and it's catered for. He just needs to find a way to convince the CDF that, you know, this is part of education.
Yeah.
And it's and showcase the impact and the sustainability of and it's work. It's a lot of work because it's never been done before. So it's easier for them to just say, let's change mabatis and let's, you know, paint the school.
It's a one-off.
It's a one-off. There's no logistics around it. But you know, with the porridge, it has a lot of logistics, but it also created a lot of employment.
Right.
Yeah.
But I can also see, as you're doing all these things, you have an agenda. Your agenda is that I want my people to know that I am available and they should elect me as the next Bobasi MP.
Of course, yeah.
So I can imagine that you do not engage at any point with the CDF committee to tell them, you know, guys, here's an idea. How about you implement it?
No, absolutely not. Because the aim at that point was showcase. It's like a pilot. Showcase what else CDF can do. And then from there, hope to get elected. Because you see, you know, if you're not elected, unaenda kuongelesha CDF forward, you know. I mean, what are you going to tell them? Okay, you're an electorate. They'll send you to your representative. Go and talk to the board of your representative, the chair of your CDF committee or a committee member. They send you back there. So the aim was showcase to the electorate. If the electorate understands that kumbe we have been getting a road deal all these years, let's try this person with these ideas, then they give you the vote. When they give you the vote, then now you go to CDF, present your case and tell, you know, this is it's actually falls squarely under education, and you know, therefore it should be considered and it should be approved. And that was the plan. So although at the part of getting elected, I failed there.
How?
How did you feel exactly?
Well, I mean, there is no almost winner or number two in politics. You just have to
You're a winner.
get elected.
Actually, no.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Actually, no. There are people who at the first stab get elected. Very few get elected and stay elected. Our soon-to-be president is one such person. Got elected, stayed.
Stayed elected.
There are a few others. I don't care none. Stayed. Most people, if you read the story, the number of times they try before they actually get it, you will be shocked.
Yeah, there's that.
So
there is that, but
let me ask you.
yes.
Right now, as you sit here thinking, wouldn't you say, how many times have you lost, by the way?
This was my first time losing.
Okay.
This was my first time in politics, and this was my first time losing. I actually lost at the party primaries. I didn't get the ticket.
And you got shocked, weren't you?
No, yes, I got shocked.
Got disappointed.
No, I got shocked because I got 5,000 votes. That was a lot of votes for primary. So I was like, because everybody kept on telling me, utarudi na kura 200, wacha tutakufundisha kura 50. Because also in Kisii County, I was the first woman to vie for a member of parliament seats ever in history.
Yes. I
So-
was going to ask that question. I'm glad you've answered if I could ask.
So I was shocked at my performance because I did well. And the winner actually for the primaries won with about 1,000 votes. Which was funny because in the general election, he came back with 1,000 votes. He got 7,000 in the party primaries, but he came back with 1,000 votes. In the I kept on saying something is off. Yeah, but
So it's your opponents who sponsored his votes.
well, I don't want to go on record.
Don't worry. We'll go on record for you.
We can see the game.
So I mean, I got shocked with my results because I also did not anticipate to get that many votes. But then when I was looking at the calculations, by that time I had about maybe 20 schools, and the population in those schools was over 8,000. So if you calculate, 8,000 is just the child. So if you calculate even just one parent per child voting for you, I mean, I should have performed if that program was to translate into votes. Yeah, so I was shocked, but when I did the calculations, I was like, actually, for 5,000, that's because, again, turnout during primaries is normally not that high. Yeah.
You know where I was going with my questions is, you see, when you started this journey, you understood politics to be one thing. When you lost, didn't you have an aha moment? You say, oh, goodness. You mean this is it?
Let me tell you something. Like my first attempt at so many things, I barely ever lose. And I always ace it. I put in 100% and I come out like a winner. When I lost, it was very humbling. And it was Easter. I switched off my phone and slept for 4 days.
Oh, yeah.
I was so sad. I was so annoyed at the world. I was so annoyed at the electorate.
At the people.
Yeah.
Why didn't you
I
vote
was
for me?
so annoyed. I was like, you
Kunywa
people.
uji yangu.
It's not even that. It's like you can't see the things I'm trying to bring here. What's wrong with you people? So I was just mad. And it took me, whether you must lose an election in politics for you to know,
Very useful.
for you to just understand a lot of dynamics. Because the thing is, it's not the losing. It's what do you do after the losing? Because a lot of people lose. Like I can tell you, we were 4. One of the guys who, by the way, I was supposed to be negotiated out, so he got the ticket. And he performed very poorly. He was last. He lost, and the next time I saw him was in Karen like 3 days ago. Like he just
disappeared
He
from
just
the
disappeared.
radar.
Like we're like, what happened to that guy? He just disappeared. So the important thing about losing is, what do you do next? Because
But
you
you see,
What lessons do you take?
why I was
going forward?
insisting you didn't lose. See, the thing that you must understand, look at this thing in totality. First woman ever to do what you're doing. 20 schools. 2 schools, I would have been impressed. 3, I would have been flabbergasted. 20.
Yes.
I'm blown away.
Yes.
The community clearly saw something they had never seen before. Clearly.
It did that project really sold me.
But you also caught the attention of other people.
Yes.
Now,
You know,
see,
in hindsight,
Yes.
I you know how when you plan and I'm like, I'm going to go back to Kenya, I'm going to vie for member of parliament, and I'm going to do ABCD. By the way, I had a plan. I just didn't know how I'm going to get into the space, but the plan
But
was
the
there.
plan
So
was
it was
there.
being executed. And then when I lost, it was like this was not part of the plan. I didn't have
There
a
was
plan.
no loss.
There was no loss
anywhere on the
anywhere.
plan.
And there was no like, if I lose,
Failure
what will I
plan.
do?
Yes.
So that was my issue because I was like, I didn't plan for this.
It
so
was plan A all the way.
what normally happens when you lose? So luckily, throughout the process, I used to call these veteran politicians and tell them, Kai, what do people do now? What happens and whatever. So when I lost, I first it was very depressing. And I was ranting, and I was really ranting like for 4 days. I was ranting to my party leader and ranting to anyone. I was really like just my SMS thing. I used to write messages and switch off my phone. Then write more messages and switch off my phone.
what you just described is called therapy.
going through
Unajua,
And then
this
phone
was my
off.
ticket. This guy is not even part of our, like, oh my gosh. Then I switch off, I sleep, then I write, and
You wake
and
up
then
and check whether they've responded.
when I switch on, no one has responded. I go back to ranting.
Let's take a break.
So eventually, I actually that's where the breakthrough came in, and at least someone came through and said, come, let's talk.
Wow.
Yeah.
So even ranting helps. 26 minutes to 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We are speaking to Senator Gloria Orwoba, newly nominated, newly sworn in senator under the UDA ticket. Newly minted. Fresh. And she is not here just by accident. She's here because she had a plan. And she says, I came back to the country after working abroad for a number of years. And the plan was to get into Kenyan politics and serve. And here she is, first-time senator. We want to hear what she has in store for us.
Spice. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
Gloria
For Spice.
Orwoba, nominated by the UDA into the Senate. And you're telling us about your journey and how you get there and then the plans that you have. So your plan is basically to serve in a leadership position, in a representative position. And now here you are. But how did you then, after the performance at the party primaries, how did you get your name onto the list of the nominees? You are number 4 on the list?
Yes.
Number
I was
4
nominee number 4.
on the UDA list.
Yes.
That's a high
But
rank.
no, actually, no. Can we just move a few steps? How do you even get your name on the list?
How do you get your name on the
How
list?
do you
Whether
get
number
there?
4, 5. Well, it doesn't matter the
There is
number.
no actual formula, but first of all, thank God that there was new legislation that organized that nomination, because before that it was always being used like, nitakupatia till last minute, then I don't give you nitakupatia. So they organized it and they put in like steps to a point that you can't change the list once it's been submitted to IBC.
Yep.
Because before that, by the way, you could be nominated until the very last day of gazettement and then you're not nominated. So now the process made it clear that parties had to submit, then IBC takes it back, then you give it to the... So to get on the list, there's no formula. 2 things though. Loyalty is one. Yeah. Loyalty pays, by the way, in
To the
politics.
party or to the
Loyalty
individual
to
or
the party, to the movement, to the cause. It pays. There are people that have been in this game way longer than I have, and they keep wondering, like, how did you come here? And then 2 years and 3 years, and then you've come this far. One thing I've understood, loyalty pays, and luckily, I'm actually within even my own principle, personal. I'm usually like, there's no gray areas. I'm with you or I'm not with you. So that was not hard for me to decide. Once I decided I'm with this side of the political divide, I got castigated. There are times when, especially after doing the TV shows, people will call you a sycophant, room 350, all those things. But loyalty pays. So I would say loyalty is one formula. And then it's your contribution to the cause, to the party, to the movement, and your contribution in terms of, are you pushing the agenda? For instance, when we started the Hustler Nation movement, people didn't really know what it was about. Then when we translated into the bottom-up economic model, people didn't know. There's a time in between we had BBI, and our side of the political divide was against it. And you have to understand why were we against it and whatever, and then now push out the message to the electorate, so that, because it's really about convincing the numbers and trying to have them with you. And I played a big role in that, like the advocacy and stuff like that. But also as a woman, it's you just need to show your value. You have to bring something to the table.
Why as a woman?
Because it's easy to overlook. Some men are just there. Let me just be very honest with
Yes.
you.
Please.
There's some men who've just been in politics. They're just figureheads, Like, they probably vied once, kitambo, and then, they were appointed somewhere. And then because you have a name, the way you have a name, and then you just show up in the room and everyone just imagines you've brought something. But really, you're just a figurehead. And if you come down to what have you contributed, we can't substantiate it. So as a woman, you can't compete with that. Because even with your name and with everything, people will still be like, na unafanyia nini chama? More is expected of you. So once you understand that, when you're in politics, you'll always like we'll enter a room. It's a brainstorming session,
Yeah.
and you'll find me saying, "Okay, I'm going to take the notes. I'm already like,
You're already
what else am I going to
volunteering to
contribute?
add value.
Yeah. So it's like, let me do the notes. Let me do this, and I'll always be like, what else can I bring to this table? I know that I'm a contributor equal to these other people, but what else can put me, one step ahead, and guys would not want to put in so much work. So you end up being the one doing the late nights, you just end up doing more.
Do you find that unfair?
It's unfair, but that's how it is.
No. Actually, no. It isn't.
That's how it is.
It isn't unfair.
It is unfair.
No, it isn't.
Why?
You're paying your dues. You see, what you end up doing, you become indispensable.
That is true. That is true.
So in terms of a strategy, it's a perfect. So people.
But where is she? Where is Gloria?
Yeah, precisely. How come this isn't done? Gloria hasn't come.
That is actually true. But the same should be expected
Even of the men.
for the men. Some men, because of their names, I'm telling you this,
They will not lift a
they're
finger to do
indispensable.
anything.
They're indispensable. Even if there's nothing you're missing,
This meeting
it will be
can't
like,
start because it is not
Eh.
here.
Meanwhile, when the meeting actually takes place,
Gloria.
That I saw a lot
This
in
presence
politics.
that
I
you
saw
see,
that,
this
yeah.
presence that you see is not a standalone issue. These people keep getting appointed because they have associations. They are people they've done God knows what with. Okay, so it's a club. It's
a boys' club.
Yes, that's what I was getting to.
But
So
the good thing about noticing it, I usually try not to be the complainant, but I realize in politics, just make noise. Make a lot of noise. So at the end of the day,
get yourself noticed.
make noise even about the issues that no one is making noise about. Because at the end of the day, I realize when you point it out, particularly in our spaces, and this is what I and without wanting to sound like a sycophant, what I quickly appreciated about William Ruto was, I think, because he's gone through the same journey, it's one of those things where you say, like, how come ABCD nini nini? And then he'll be like, yeah, that is true. By the way, Eric has not contributed nini nini. And he'll acknowledge and he'll make sure that it never happens. It becomes like, going forward, we are going to do ABCD. So the feedback is actually appreciated. And once I realized the feedback is noted, appreciated, and thought into,
You always had feedback.
I always had feedback. I'm like, I have feedback.
Let me ask this, because you've actually brought in that word. So first you said how you get yourself onto the nomination lists is you've got to prove your loyalty. And then you've also used the word sycophancy. So how do you differentiate between loyalty and sycophancy?
Loyalty means that despite the fact that it's difficult to be in that position, you stay the course. You don't need to be a sycophant, but you stay the course. There were times when guys were like, you can't come and tell us that the deputy president is not part of this government. He's the deputy president. So, you can't come and say that, and that can't be an argument. And then it's a very uncomfortable position to be in, because that's a fact, yeah? And so now you have to figure out how to convince these people that, yes, he is on paper the deputy president, but really he is not. And sometimes you look very stupid, but then you stay the course. Because if you find yourself now being on the gray area, and that's now the disloyalty and there's no sycophancy there. Now sycophancy is more like, I don't want to argue with facts, I don't want to be criticized. People criticize, for instance, I criticized BBI, and part of my criticism formed William Ruto's criticism. And after that, when they switched course and it looked like we just want them to change a couple of things, then maybe we will agree with it. I still was like, no, because nothing has changed with the youth. So you guys can agree with it even if they change ABCD or Bunzman and what. But me, I still feel like the youth are not actually taken care of. So it's like a thin line.
It's important to understand the meaning of terms. What you've described yourself as, that's not sycophancy. A sycophant is somebody who just obsequiously, yani without breaks, just keeps following and doesn't reason. Yanafuata tu ni huyu ni hii.
I'm tempted to say like
in order to get favor.
In order to get favor.
It's not empty. There's something they're gunning for.
Yeah.
In the days of the single party system, we saw it. to the point where you actually wonder, I knew this person before they got into politics. Who is this person I'm now seeing? Yes, that one
thing.
Although with the public, they don't see the behind the scenes arguments. So they only see you defending the cause. So at the end of the day, they're like, you used to have a brain before you joined these Tanga people.
Nowadays,
now
you're
you
just
don't have
saying
a brain.
yes to everything.
Oh, uliwacha brain yako Weston, nini. So, but they don't realize by the time you're coming to defend the cause, you have had your arguments behind the scenes, and you've even given your contribution and said, I actually feel, and then you
got convinced.
Then you got
probably.
convinced,
Persuaded.
or you know, and then you come and defend the cause.
But Gloria, what I've always found fascinating, I'm not a social media person really, but the few times I foray and I enter, I am shocked at the conversation. I'm blown away by the conversation. I'm saying, you mean this is what people are discussing here? No, it's like somebody just, so long as the thing hits their brain, no filtering system, it's unleashed. Whap! No.
But isn't that so? I think that's the beauty of social media.
Beauty.
Yes.
That's the danger of social media.
You think so?
Oh, it's the danger of
Let me
social
tell you why
media.
it's the beauty. Because sometimes I go to my page and I read things, and then I get to understand a different perception, a different perspective. So then it opens my mind. Like you could be coming and throwing it in a negative way, but for me, I'm like, by the way, I need to think about that angle. And then it makes me like either harness my agenda or whatever.
It could be presented. It could be presented in a harsh way, or in a wrong way, but there's a message.
You just need to know that first of all, those people don't exist. I always tell myself, those comments, those are not people, because those people, when you meet them, it's different. So I always tell myself, all the comments, these are bots, all of them. But all you need to do is get the message and don't personalize it. Don't be like, Omondi nani amenitukana. Just get the message.
But really, when someone expresses a view, even if it's a spur of the moment, how do I divorce that from you, the person? Because yes, I've understood a thought process, I've understood a fear, I've understood a perspective, I've understood the way someone thinks. For me, it's a reality. Now, I may not agree with it, I may not necessarily react to it, but my shock and awe is the abundance of it on both sides of the. And you wonder, whoa. But the good thing is, it's out. For me, what I've seen, my conclusion that this is a forum for venting.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's good therapy. And while they vent, those ideas actually come home. I appreciate social media so much because people can hide behind the keyboards. And sometimes that's what people need in order for them to express themselves, to tell you the truth. Yeah. And if those people were sitting in this boardroom, everyone would be like,
some of them would not be able to speak.
Nothing. So I actually appreciate it. In fact, when people come and abuse me and tell me all those things, I'm like, take it, because also it humbles you. You know, you could be walking around town here thinking, when someone needs to tell you are really stupid. Then you calm down.
Calm down. It's interesting that you say that, because now here you are in a nominated senator position, and the goal that you initially had was to be a member of parliament where you're from. So now here you are as a nominated senator. Does the goal shift?
You know, for me, it doesn't shift. But the weird thing is that everybody who's spoken to me since the list came out prior to us being sworn in, are like, now, you know, where's Rudy Kiti ya MP? Just sasa wewe ni senator. And in my head, I'm like, I really just want to go back and vie for Bobasi constituency as a member of parliament. But, you know, one thing I've learned in politics, you listen to guys who've been in it. Take their advice. So if someone comes and tells you, by the way, wachana na ikiti, chukua ikiti, don't dismiss it. There's a reason behind it, and I've also appreciated that I'm an amateur in this game. I keep telling everyone, by the way, I'm an amateur politician. Kunendanga aje hapa, watu wanafanya nini? Then they you know, because you could be, and I say this with respect, you could be a Martha Karua and missing out on opportunities because you just don't want to listen.
Now,
on
that point that you've just made, you campaigned, I could use the adjective heavily, for Kenya Kwanza. What made you do that? That's part one. And then part two is, now that that government is in place, is it really the words that were spoken on the campaign trail that then will be entrenched in practice in this government moving forward?
So why did I campaign for Kenya Kwanza heavily? Really, it's just because of William Ruto. And that sounds very, I don't know, maybe psycho fancy kind of. But I'll tell
I
you.
haven't dissuaded you from using that term.
Let me tell you, you join a movement, a cult, a religion because of something or someone.
Yeah.
You know, you find yourself in a space, something inspires you so badly, and you're like, me, I'm just going to be a Christian. And then you give your life to Jesus, right? Because of someone or something. For me, it was someone. Because when I was trying to get into this political space, I knocked on many doors. And the feeling that I got in these other doors was, you're too young. Please do your time, Kwanza. Enda ungangane uko na MCA or whatever. Like, no one had time for me, you know.
You don't even know the ground.
They don't even want to know the background of who you are. It was dismissive. I was dismissed by many of these other people. Like, I was really dismissed. I had a conversation with the daughter of one of these people, and we were friends. And I was like, listen, I know I can do this, blah, 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 nikajuza. And they were like, yeah. When Goja, you know, you need like 10 more years. Themselves, they were dismissive.
Wow.
And then when I finally got in front of William Ruto, which was a funny story because I did a TV show, then I was called. Like I was like, just ranting about Europeans and how we shouldn't treat them special here.
What you were doing, wasn't ranting, you were opining.
I was, yeah. And
Ranting
it was about
tends to be incoherent.
It was about, remember the Chester scandal, and everyone was talking about, and I was like, you people, Kenyans are getting conned. Why are you focused? Because I ni wazungu. So because I had just come from Europe, so mine was like, can we be serious? Why are we giving these people special attention? Because I had come from a place where I was really mistreated being in as a foreigner.
Minority.
And then I raised a very pertinent question. I said, before we talk about who was conned, were these people in the country legally? They said they were doing business. Which kind of permits did they have? And then the front newspaper was all about the work permits they didn't have, blah, blah, blah. And that got me in front of William Ruto. And then when I got my chance and I was like, I want to do this, and it was the first person who didn't dismiss me. Like in politics, really.
So what did he say?
He was like,
First of all, he listened.
He listened. That was for sure. He listened.
So it was a one-on-one.
It was a one-on-one. I had a one-on-one.
You and William Ruto.
Yes.
All right.
And he just wanted to know who's this person because I didn't know, but I was talking the bottom-up language. 2019.
Without calling it bottom-up.
I didn't know about bottom-up.
Right.
I was just doing my thing. So I expressed myself, and then he said, good. You have a very bright future ahead of you. He asked me what my plans. I said, I'm going to vie. And then he tried to advise me without dismissing me. But like in hindsight, he was trying to tell me, hey, Kisii County. Hey, my friend Utanguka. But then he didn't tell me that. So it was like, no, just keep at it. As a father figure, I have to advise you. I'm not saying you stop with your campaign. Keep with your campaign. Let's have another conversation later on. But when I think about it, then he was trying to tell me, please wachana na hiyo kitu. But in a nice, so he was not dismissive. Then for me, I felt I found a home. Now from there, when you believe in someone, it's so easy for them to now, it's called brainwash you.
Yes.
Condition you completely.
So that's a starting point. And for me, it was like, I was not dismissed. I was in the youth bracket.
You felt appreciated.
I was a woman. I felt appreciated. So that was the starting point. And then now from there, I noticed any other meeting that I happened to be in and in his presence, I would make a contribution equally to veteran politicians.
Would he remember you by name, or would you call him my friend?
When we had the PG,
So
the first PG.
my friend from Babasi.
No. When we had the first PG 2 weeks ago, is it in Karen? Ruto introduced everyone by name. Everyone. He said, okay, sasa tuanze na wajumbe wa 001. They stand. Then he says, yes, this is so-and-so from this constituency. He's the one who was introducing them to everyone else. Until 047. The only people he had a challenge with were the deputy governors. Why? His interaction with deputy governors is minimal. because you interact with the candidates.
Don't apologize.
Yeah.
No one knows deputy governors.
Some governors don't.
In 30 seconds.
You know, in Debbie, so
Answer
he
the
so
second
he
part.
knew he calls
He
you
calls
by
you
name.
by name, so he
Yes.
remembers you.
He has a
Second
very
part
good memory.
of Ndu's question.
So the
because
second
we're-
part of your question was
Are we sure that the things that were said on the campaign trail now will be entrenched now that everybody is in?
I
After having
was
campaign
one of
song?
the few women that drafted the women's charter, and I can tell you we're already delivering the 50%
50% cabinet.
as the first thing, and you will start seeing and forget even that the promises that he signed between the alliances like ANC, Ford Kenya, Wetangula is now as speaker. King
is a
is
speaker.
a speaker. He's delivering exactly the things that he promised already
For the people of Kenya.
for the people of
Not his
Kenya.
lieutenant.
You see, even those negotiations with those parties were
They were
people
on
of Kenya.
behalf of the people.
For the behalf of the people of Kenya. And he's already, for the women charter, I can tell you, I'm on the forefront ensuring that every single thing that we put there is going to be, executed. Yeah.
Gloria, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
This is the first of many visits that you'll have onto this show. Karibu sana again and again, and we wish you all the best as you begin this journey as a senator
Asante
in the
sana.
Republic of Kenya.
Thank you.
you.